Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on the Good News Podcast today. We have a amazing individual. His name is Troy Colmer. Some may be aware of Troy. Troy's been around our church for years. He also started something recently called Sober Athletic Wear. And the story behind it, well, we're going to get into that today, so I won't tell you the story behind it, but it is really cool, really inspiring, really encouraging. And what also happens is Troy goes pretty deep into his own story. Friends, let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on the Good News Podcast. I am so thrilled to have a very good friend and someone who continues to inspire me. I am sure his story is going to inspire you as well. This is Troy Colmer. Troy, thanks for joining us today on the Good News Podcast. I'm really excited to have this conversation, not just for everyone else, but actually even just for me. There's so much behind your story. It's so encouraging. But tell us a little bit about the journey that took you to start Sober Athletics.
Well, it started as like most things do. It's just a thought in the mind that
Exactly.
I was always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to have a small business to run and try that, dabble in that a little bit. Never got really around to it throughout my life. Been working and raising a family and things like that. So um, the idea came to me. I saw something in my mind, a logo first that came, which you can see that I'm wearing today.
Yeah, glad you did.
Repping the brand. You got to rep the brand.
Absolutely.
So I saw this logo in my mind, and I really wanted to reach out and let people know that it's okay to admit, first of all, that there's some issues going on in their life, and to destigmatize the word sober. So my company's called Sober Athletic Wear. Um, the athletic wear part is more of a, as you can tell, I dress, I'm kind of casual. So I like to wear a hat. I like to wear, hoodies and t-shirts and that type of thing. So it was kind of in my wheelhouse of what I wear on a daily basis. And I was wondering, what can I put this logo on to get out into the public and for me to generate some revenue? But it's not about the revenue. The initial idea came to, as I said, destigmatize the word sober, but also allow people a forum to support people that are going through mental health and addiction issues in their lives. So I've been in treatment. I'm an alcoholic. I've recently really just come to actually believe and admit it 100%. So October 5th, 2021 was the day that I really did take a stand and share my story from the most honest place that I ever could. As you know, we'd have discussions in the past about some of the issues that I had in my life, and I've been on a road to recovery since November of 2014, but I wasn't real truthful to myself throughout that 7-year process, because I really, deep in my heart, was lying to myself about my issue. And so I appeased people, I appeased my family, I appeased people around me, and I had stints of not, of sobriety, and sometimes I would have some relapses or slips, as we call them. But the whole time trying to move towards a place of sobriety. And the reason was because I had some mental health issues going on in my life that I've now discovered from childhood, and maybe even some predisposition genetically to using a substance to relieve stress and things like that in my life. So if you saw me from the outside of my house, a lot of people wouldn't realize that I even had this issue unless I told them. So it came to a point in my life for me to get healed for myself. I needed to be honest, and I needed to be honest mostly to myself. Well, not mostly, completely to myself. And when that happened, I was able to really just share everything about me. So I'll give you a little bit of background as well, because it's a big, long story of how this all happened and how it came about. So I went into a treatment program on November 1st of this past year, and I spent 20 days, so 4 weeks, in therapy, learning why I had, used alcohol as a coping mechanism for my life. So I've been diving in deep into my past. I've been diving deep into my psyche, all different aspects of cognitive
Yeah.
behavioral therapy, all kinds of different things like that. So that's where my passion lies for the word sober and destigmatizing it. The other thing that I found through this process is that people aren't just getting sober from normal things that we think about when we hear the connotation of sober of alcohol or drugs and having an addiction. There's all kinds of reasons why people would want to get sober from food, from sex, pornography people use, shopping, social media is an addiction now that, even our younger generation is getting, and even myself, I find myself on the phone way too much. I need to put it down. So a lot of things that we fill our time or boredom with are if we're anxious or we're having these type of things, we use things to self-medicate. So the reason that I chose sober is, first of all, I found a lot of shame surrounding that word, and I found a lot of anxiety from that word that people felt. So I wanted to give people permission to support other people, first of all, by wearing the logo and saying, starting a conversation, really. So if someone saw this and me wearing it, hopefully they would ask me, like, what's up with the sober shirt, or what's that mean, or what are you doing?
Can I ask, does that happen?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear.
Yeah, the odd time. I think people are very shy about it because they don't want to be too intrusive. And I opened the business during the pandemic, so we haven't actually been out in the public too much wearing.
You're preparing people.
I'm preparing people.
Yeah.
So it's actually been a good thing because it's allowed me to continually grow at a slow pace, and kind of get myself established and kind of get a vision of where I want to go. But the idea behind the company really was to raise some revenue to give back to people who maybe can't afford to get treatment.
Awesome.
There is a lot of great treatment in Ontario. That's where we live and where we're broadcasting from. But so my idea was to try and raise some money, give back to people in a certain way. So attached to a charity or maybe even create kind of like a scholarship type thing where if someone need a little bit of extra help to go do something, maybe it's even just daycare to take care of their kids as they take some time off or whatever it would be.
Absolutely.
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite there yet either.
Okay.
Still, a lot of this stuff is in the infancy stage and building ideas of how to move forward. But the real concept was to, first of all, raise some money to help people. It gave me the courage to tell my story. So not only do I want to sell a product, I also want to be able to go, visit schools or visit businesses if they have situations where they think that somebody can come in and talk about an issue that people don't want to talk about. There's a lot of hours that people, businesses lose because of people being ill and away. And that comes from a lot of mental health issues, and mental health issues usually turn into an addiction issue sometimes for people.
Yeah.
I haven't met too many people yet in my travels that haven't had some sort of trauma or mental health concerns that had led to self-coping through some sort of method.
So often there's way more underneath the addiction than people even realize.
Yeah, there absolutely is. The mental health aspect and childhood trauma and the things that I've read. Gabor Mate is one gentleman who is a doctor who spent a lot of time in Vancouver and working in the streets there, and wrote a book in the realm of hungry ghosts and talks about the traumas that he's seen in his patients. And if you look for him on YouTube, you can find him, and he'll talk about how he almost 100% says that childhood trauma has resulted in addictions for people, whatever that might be. He himself had an addiction to shopping for music. So I think his thing was classical music. So he wouldn't have one CD back then when there were CDs people used. He would have 10 of one particular CD.
Wow.
So, and he found, I guess, comfort from this music and shopping. And so he tells his story about it as well. So it can come in many different forms.
Yeah.
So that's a long way to say that it's really about, selfishly, it's for me to tell my story, and really is a good therapy for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm a business person, so I wanted to start a small business, not just for myself, but also to help other
Oh,
people.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
one of the goals. And the third goal I would say is to destigmatize the word,
Yeah.
and for people who have addictions, not to feel the shame surrounding that, because there's always a story that people don't know behind that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that conversations will get started just by seeing this logo,
Mm-hmm.
and people will ask. And then when they ask, we can tell our stories. Or if you're a person who is supporting somebody who has an addiction of some sort
Absolutely.
and wear it,
Yeah.
you don't yourself have to be, going through an addiction
Yeah.
to wear this
Yeah.
shirt. I just want to make that clear. This is for everybody to wear.
Yeah.
And I would encourage that, because if you have someone in your life that you love, or a friend, or in general just have a heart for people who are going through an addiction issue and mental health issues, this can really create conversations where we talk all year round about it.
Yeah.
We have certain days in the media that we do talk about it, which are fantastic, and I support that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is something that we have to take action with.
Mm-hmm.
No
Mm-hmm.
more just talking about it. We need to put things into action,
Yeah.
because people are dying. The overdoses that have happened since the pandemic has started is astronomical.
Yeah. No,
The numbers are almost
yeah.
even greater, if not greater, than the actual COVID deaths.
Yeah.
It's this very, very serious thing
Yeah.
that's going on. And the mental health aspect during this time that we're living through now is incredibly
Yeah.
tough for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And we see that every day.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
I just love the vision, Troy, and why that you're doing this. Just having the word sober out there. I see, you've got lots of social media going on, and I think every time I see it, I'm wondering who's going to see that and be inspired to, or even ask a question, maybe stop and think a little bit. And so, as you think about what it means to be sober, what's it been like for you? Because there's a reason that you're doing this, and part is to help people as well as yourself, and the two can happen at the same time. Absolutely, that's part of the way God works. It's really cool. But for you, what's been the difference in life before getting sober and after? What are some of this, just for people to get a sense of how important and significant this is?
Well, being a lifelong journey, and to be completely transparent, and I've put my story out there. I started drinking when I was 14 years old. And the very first time I remember I took a drink, finding a relief in my brain.
Mm.
And at that time, I was only, I could only think like a 14-year-old would think. So at that time, it brought me a sense of calmness that I didn't have, that I really guess I was looking for. I can't really, it's hard to describe. But and one thing about an addiction is, and especially an alcohol addiction, it's not something that happens immediately. It's a gradual thing that could happen. And I've heard this repeated over and over again. People would say, I'm not the typical person that you would see to think that they're an alcoholic or have a problem with alcohol, because a lot of it is private.
Mm.
So a lot of people will do it by themselves, or will do a little bit before they go out with other people, or they might do it after they're with people, things like that. So there's a lot of running around and hiding and that type of thing. But so what happened for me was my life eventually became living in chaos, because I wasn't truthful to myself, and I wasn't truthful to my family. I wasn't truthful to my friends. And when you don't have that truthfulness in you, and you're trying to escape, and you don't have the skills really to talk about it with other people, I was ashamed, very ashamed. I was just scared to admit. I didn't want people knowing that I had this issue. I didn't really even think I really had an issue till someone brought it to my attention, And when I took a deep dive into it, I was, first of all, scared, because I knew deep down that I was not in a good place with it. And so life then was chaos. It was always living on the edge of nervousness of, am I going to get caught today?
It's like a bit of a secret life that people didn't know
Secret
about.
life. It's living.
Which is
It
hard,
is absolutely living a dual life. It is living, and I've heard many people that I've been in therapy with talk about it, living this dual life of what people outside your house might see and what people inside your house might see, or sometimes not even the people inside your house will see. And when you're not truthful to yourself, that creates more anxiety. And then when you drink, that brings anxiety on itself because alcohol does that. It brings anxiety to people. So it was just living on the edge. I worked a ton, so I used it as a stress relief in my early years. Like I'm talking, 10, 15 years
Yeah.
ago. And so life was really, really, really tough. It was, I had a deep, deep depression that I was in about 2009, 2010. And I woke up one evening from my sleep and I was crying and I couldn't figure out why. And my wife asked me, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I just don't know what's going on with me. I'm not happy in anything. Nothing's bringing me joy in my life. I'm not happy being a husband. I'm not happy being a father. I'm not happy just in general things like sports. Didn't
Yeah.
become that important to me anymore. I love sports.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about sports, and everything just was
Yeah.
just dull.
You got a great life going on, but you're not feeling it.
Just wasn't feeling it. And so and it brings a lot of shame because I know that there's the tools in my life that I should have had. I had my faith in God. Why didn't I turn to God or turn to somebody and talk about it? Was the shame. It just, I felt so bad about myself. And then when you start feeling bad about yourself, it's a cycle. And then when you try to stop and you fail and you fail and you fail, you see yourself as a failure. I'm never going to get over this. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. All these really, really negative things. So prior to really making that commitment this past October 5th, it was living that dual life. And it just really, really hard. And I can't, it's hard to articulate, to be honest with you, Jamie, because if you haven't gone through it, it's hard to put into words. All I know that is prior to that, my life felt like chaos. It felt like when I would come home, I was afraid to get caught because I was going to doing something I knew I shouldn't have been doing. And I was ashamed of myself. And there's a saying in AA, on the coins even, it says, "To thine own self be true." And that's a slogan that I use. I have a card that I keep in my truck, and it has 10 reasons if I have a craving or I have a situation where I get frustration and I get to anger. When I get to anger, then I usually self-medicate through alcohol. That's what my pattern was. Frustration, anger, drink.
Yeah.
And that was a pattern throughout my whole life. But having these tools, and the number one thing was to thine own self be true. So when I was just fooling myself all this time until I got honest with myself, it wasn't going to change. And until that day, I took that to heart. Things changed, and it's been awesome since.
It's funny that I could feel a different energy coming off you. And when you talk about that before and after, what happened on that day? Like what turned the corner for you? Because you've been struggling this for throughout your life in many ways, but especially since 2014 when you kind of know I got some issues here and trying, but didn't quite get there. What happened? What happened to turn that corner for you?
Well, I had a bad day on October 4th.
Yeah.
So I was out. I was golfing with some friends, and those guys know my issues, and they watch out for me. So I don't indulge around them. And again, of course, sneaking around on the way home, I stopped off, and so the next day, there was a conversation in the house about it, and actually that evening, on October 4th, there was a conversation, and I texted one of my friends who's a family member, is an alcoholic, and I have a chat with my buddies, and I said, guys, I really have messed up. I can't continue to live like this anymore. And my friend reached out to my wife and said, I really think Troy needs to go to a treatment center. This is the only way I've seen it work in the past. And we had that discussion on October 5th, and I did. So I didn't go into a treatment center. I found a program through William Osler, the local hospital, and they offered a program, a day outpatient program, which I was too nervous to go away. I had a lot going on that to go away would have put more stress on my life, to be honest with you. Yeah. So I found that program, and through that program, really changed my life. And it was really getting honest with myself. That's what changed. What
Okay.
changed was my mindset changed to I'm going to do it for everybody else. To I'm going to do it for me.
You
And
are worthy of doing
I'm
this
worthy.
for.
I had to get selfish about it
Yeah.
because I really
Interesting.
didn't do it for me. I just did it
Yeah.
like everything else in my life. I was kind of doing for other people and not for myself.
And then you can keep fooling them and
You
not,
can
right?
fool,
But
you can't fool yourself.
no, exactly. Wow, Troy.
You can't
That's
fool yourself.
huge.
So that's what it was. So I made that commitment. And so since then, I'm actually today 122 days sober. I'm going to be on Saturday. I'm going to be 4 months
Wow.
till I had
Praise
a drink.
God.
Now, I've
Praise
had
God.
times when I've gone stretches, but I've never gone this long.
Yeah.
And I didn't set a date in the past because I failed so many times. I feared failing.
Okay.
And I don't like failing. So I didn't set a date. And that was an important thing too, is actually setting a date and putting it down, remembering it, telling people, being accountable for it.
Yeah.
And learning the techniques of how to, first of all, talk, because I didn't like talking, because when I talked, I had to talk not badly about myself, but I had to reveal things about myself that I wasn't proud of and I wasn't happy about. And to be honest with you, I didn't think about a lot of this stuff until later in life when we had a discussion in our house that this needed to change. And at an age, I was, middle-aged at the time. I'm 54 now. So this is, I was 47 at the time, not thinking I'm going to be talking about this stuff, about my childhood, about things that brought fear into my life. How I interpreted the world at that age. Not everyone would have interpreted it the same, but that's how I interpreted it. And that's another thing I had to understand is that, my mom and dad were absolutely loving, great, phenomenal people. So when people hear that I've had this struggle, they think, well, man, you grew up in a great house. You had great parents. You had everything provided to you. And that's where having an addiction, it doesn't matter who's your parents, where you grew up. It can affect people in different ways. So it's an individual thing as well.
Yeah.
And I had to accept that because I was, again, brought back to the shame. I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I didn't want to go to them and tell them I was having these issues.
Okay.
I didn't want to admit to my friends. The day that I spoke with you about it, I was dumbfounded. I didn't, I came to you with my wife and we talked about it. And I'm sure you remember that day.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It was hard to admit.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad
I'm feeling like I'm going to get emotional. I'm holding it together here because the reason is because you think about how it was and how hard it was.
Yeah.
But I can smile now because I know that I've come through, and because I've gone through all this, I know that God has a plan for me to use all of that time now to help other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what gives me joy is to know that it's not all for naught.
Yeah.
There's a reason now I can see.
Yeah.
And I can breathe and I can be in the moment and say, okay, God, how are you going to use me now for all of these times that I've had these struggles to help others?
Amazing, Troy.
To be that, servant leader, I guess, to go out and figure it out. And that's what sober's about.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
That's really what it's about.
You mentioned your faith a few times, and what role has your faith, your relationship with God, played in all of this? I mean, I think there's got to be a piece to having the courage to step out and try something new like this. It's amazing. You're putting yourself out there. It's awesome. I'm sure scary time, but even the whole journey towards becoming sober. What role has God played in all that for you?
Well, it goes back to years even when I was younger.
Yeah.
So it starts when I was young because, to be honest with you, growing up in the church, I grew up the first Sunday, I'm sure that I was born and alive, I was taken to church. And I grew up in the church. And for me, I felt a lot of guilt and shame growing up because how I interpreted the world was, there was a certain way to live and there was a certain standard to live. And it was a little bit of a legalistic background in my my history. So I struggled with that. I really struggled with that. And that's where a lot of my anxiety came because I guess my DNA is to try and achieve, try to be the best that I can be. And when I failed, I guess at a young age, and I saw this, I guess subconsciously it became an issue. So, yeah, so it's a very strange relationship that I've
Mm-hmm.
had with my faith from a young person till today. But again, I look back and I see now I interpreted it in a certain way, and I could only interpret it. Now, what I've learned through my therapy is you can only cope at the age that you are.
Mm.
So my coping skills at 5, 10, 15 changed. So we did an exercise of going back and envisioning yourself at that age and how you coped with life and what you did. So I've been able to let go of all of that stuff, of all those fears, of all those things, to understand now that God was with me the whole time. I was the one who interpreted it
Mm.
a little bit different, and I was a little bit hard on myself, and I
Mm.
didn't have the grace that I know that God
Mm.
came and Jesus came to give to us.
Mm.
And I want people to know that, because I know some people have probably felt the same thing of growing up and feeling guilty, and I haven't, I didn't live up to what I should have been doing,
Yeah.
and things like that.
Yeah.
And you start questioning, and that's part of faith, is questioning what's going on and what you've been taught and things like that. So my personal relationship with God and with Jesus has never been stronger.
Mm.
And the reason is because now I understand that I am worthy.
Mm.
God
Right on.
created me for a purpose. Jesus came to forgive me. And when I accepted that and understand that, I don't have to, as we say around,
Mm.
there's nothing I can do to make God love me anymore.
Mm.
Or there's nothing that I can do to be worthy of his love. And understanding that now is really freeing,
Mm.
because it allows me to be me,
Mm.
Troy, not trying to be the Troy that everybody else I think wants. I can be me for who I am,
Mm.
and all my warts and all my failures, all my failings.
Mhm.
And that's what I've learned over the past, decade.
Mhm.
And that's helped. And, coming here, to be honest with you, with NBC and a place where you can belong before you believe. And I did believe, it's just I needed to get back on
Mhm.
track. And I kind of disappeared from my faith for a little while.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful to be a part of this community and allowing to be me.
Mhm.
And so I'm super, super grateful for the people in this
Mm.
community who know me,
Yeah.
know what I've gone through, and still love me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of us, and I'm now it's my turn to
Yeah.
cry. Yeah. Thanks, Troy.
Yeah.
That's awesome, and it's amazing how far you have come and God has brought you, and you can just see it and you can hear it in your voice as you talk about this. And yeah, thanks for sharing.
Really
this.
freeing.
Yeah. That word "free" really caught me as you were talking, for sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the sober athletic wear business,
Mhm.
what about that piece? How did your faith help you step out and get that going? And was this something that, we talk about God leading us or guiding us or having that sense of direction with our life? Was that part of this for you? And if so, how did that happen? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I had sat on this idea a little bit, and I don't know, I can't picture the exact day, but it was like
Yeah.
God said to me, Troy, you got to do it.
Mm.
Do it, because it's going to change someone's life by
Yeah.
you doing this. And it's going to change your life too, because you need it. You need to step out in faith and let people know your story. Um, and to be able to give back and have a business that, yes, it's about revenue. 100%. Businesses are about revenue. There's no two ways about
Yeah.
it. Having said that, the revenue that comes, the more that comes, the more
Yeah.
that goes back.
What do you do with that
Right?
revenue?
What do you do with that
Exactly.
revenue?
Yeah.
Right? There is cost that associated to, marketing and administrative and time and things like that. 100%. But money, fortunately or unfortunately, is one of the bottom lines that helps people,
Mm.
and that allows people to go into treatment, or it allows,
Mhm.
as you say, letting a helping hand up
Mhm.
for people, and that's really what's behind it. And I just love business.
Mhm.
I'm a business guy.
Yeah.
That's just what I've done. I've been in
Yeah.
sales my whole life, and I enjoy it. I love the creative process. I love coming up with
Yeah.
the logo. I love doing the social media. I'm learning more and more as I go. I didn't grow up in a time where there was even a social media, let alone I don't think I had a cell phone to the year
Mm.
2000 and, things like this. So,
Yeah.
I'm a little bit late to the party, but I've learned, I'm through business and my normal full-time job doing social media. Now, having said that, I know what to do. I'm just not sure how to do it.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
know the ideas of how to put it together. Sometimes I need people to help me as far as implementing
Sure.
or
Yeah.
going in the back into a dashboard
Yeah.
of a website or giving me things like that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I need a little bit of help and strength. But I know what to do.
Yeah.
Get the application of it is a little bit challenging
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's been fun to learn. I spent tons of time on YouTube watching videos on how to do
Yeah.
it. I set up my own website through Shopify and went through all the
Yeah.
tutorials on how to do that, how to get all my
Yeah.
product on there. The shipping arrangements and all of that's been
Mm.
challenging. So it's been a very slow. And to be honest with you, I've had times of doubt too.
Sure. Yeah.
There's times where I've said, am I doing this and I'm wasting my? Do people even care about
Mm.
this logo? I'm not sure. But then there's stories come back. I have people send me an email. Hey, I have some friends from high school. One guy was a hockey player. He said, I was in the American Hockey League and someone gave me OxyContin because I had an injury and I became addicted to
Mm.
OxyContin. Um, People talking about mental health with their families and people who've shared and people in our community.
Yeah.
There's someone in our community who came to me and told me about this program, Addiction Services with William Osler. And that person changed my life because she told me about it.
Mm.
And I'm eternally grateful for her for doing that. So just sharing your story, people will come out and
Yeah.
reach out and talk to you about things and you can move forward from sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that you're fighting through the doubts, eh? Because
Yeah.
let's get real about that. Like every time we start something new, especially something of this magnitude, it seems like we say
Yeah.
it seemed like a good idea at the time. Like we all
Yeah.
have those moments, right? Like and because it's hard, it takes time, and so what would be your words of encouragement to someone that maybe someone is listening or watching this today, and they've been thinking about doing something for some time, and or maybe they're part way in and they also are doubting whether it was the right thing to do or is it going to work or does it matter. I mean, I love how you just come back to the why. Like when we come back to why we're doing something,
Right.
we can work through a lot of challenge, and that
Absolutely.
those kinds of emails, those stories come back to you. Troy, I pray that they keep coming because they're out there. We don't always hear them, but I pray that they keep coming to hear them so that you can remember why you've been led to do this. But what would be
Yeah.
just a few words of encouragement or advice at this point in the game for those that might be thinking about trying something like this in a different way? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it comes to if it's on your mind a lot, there's a reason it's on your mind.
Mm.
There's a seed planted in there somewhere. So first of all, I would say is get a plan. First of all, don't just go into it too blindly. I mean, if you got to get a plan and you got to have a vision of what you want to
Yeah.
do. So kind of do a mission statement and make sure that you have a passion for it because if you don't have a passion, you'll burn out on it quick and you'll
Yeah.
move on to something else probably. So if you're passionate about it, it's on your mind. Um, Make sure that you're doing something that's within a budget that you're comfortable with too, because that can be very stressful if you go to the bank and you take out a loan and it's something that's quite significant. So I found a way to start a business at a level that I'm comfortable with,
Yeah.
and I found a process through e-commerce that's comfortable for me, and I don't have to have inventory. I use some apps that suppliers will provide product for me. They produce it for me. They'll ship it for me.
Cool.
I have an online system to pay. So all of that's done automatically. And so it's, for me, that's what's been um, a comfortable
Yeah.
way to do it. And it's allowed me to start at a point. First of all, I did some research too, and I reached out to some people who are doing similar things with other charities. So
Mhm.
there's a guy that runs a thing called 10 Fed. So they feed every time you buy something, they equate enough money to feed 10 people.
Hmm.
Now it's with an organization. I'm not sure it's in Peterborough. I forget the name of it, but
Yeah.
I called him and I said, I'm thinking of doing this. And he gave me some advice on how to
Nice.
go about it.
Yeah.
So I would reach out to people too. If you have any questions on how to do it or how to move forward, look for a mentor or look for somebody that's
Yeah.
similar in business to move forward. But I think it's the number one thing is you got to have a passion. I would say the second thing is to make sure that you have a mission as well. And it's funny, someone gave me a book. Jim Christian gave me a book, and it's about the who is going to help you and not the how. When you get focused on the how, it's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But when you figure out the who's in your life that can help you move forward, it was a great book that he gave me.
Ask who, not how.
Ask who, not how. That's the one.
Well, even your examples about website and social media, like you don't have to know how to do it all. Like you said, I just know I need to do this. We got to do this.
Right.
And you can look for people who can help you with it.
I'm still looking for people to help me with that. I mean, I do what I can do the best that I can, but I'm ready to go to the next level.
Nice.
So I'm really looking for people to find. Yes, I don't know how else to put it, but
let's close with this. I got a rapid fire before we close.
Sure.
But before that, how can people help you? What do you need? How can people find you? Just a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Well, you can always, my website is soberathleticwear.com. I've actually started 2 more brands since I started in November of 2019. I think I was started my business. So I just launched a coffee. It's called Sober Up Coffee.
Nice.
So I'll play on words.
That's great.
And the slogan is, you don't have to be sober to drink Sober Up. Because, so it's a coffee. I have 21 blends that I'm selling. And so it's an online business, and it's at soberupcoffee.com. I started another brand called The Strug. So it's a play on the words of the struggle. So the struggles in people's lives. So I wanted to have another brand that people could wear if they weren't comfortable wearing sober. So the Strug is about, people have struggles in their lives. Could be addiction, could be whatever it is that they're going through. So I'm thinking of doing a podcast called The Strug. So I'm looking for help with the podcast. I'm looking for help with social media, maybe website. Somebody knows how to help me boost up my website. I mean, I have an okay website, but I have some ideas that I don't really know how to do fantastically quite yet. And so it's hard to have a full-time job, do this on the side, and have a family and you know what it's like, right? Life is real
you're
busy.
Doing tons, man. It'll come.
So it's slow. And but you know what? At the same time, I've been doing a lot of podcasting with people. I have 2 set up that I'm coming up. Well, obviously today is one. And then I have a couple coming up in the next couple of weeks that I'm doing as well. So getting out, and I'm meeting people around North America. I just did a podcast with a guy. Got to meet a guy. His name's Monte Ball. He was running back for the Wisconsin Badgers. He got drafted by the Broncos. He's an addict. He played football for about 1.5 years and lost it all because of his addiction.
Wow.
So he has a podcast called Untapped Keg, and I was on there. And so you meet kind of cool people that way, right? So now I have a contact with him, and we're doing some stuff together. And the more people that I talk to and podcast with and reach out and through social media, there's kind of a odd, not odd, but like a subculture of the sober world and recovery world. And so like I'm actually kind of becoming a little bit of an influencer in that area,
That's awesome, Troy.
So it's kind of cool that you're getting recognized, and it's fun. And again, it comes back to it's really healing for me to get out there and talk about it with people and share. And you can send somebody a tweet of encouragement. Like I follow all kinds of people that are going through these struggles, and they'll post how many days sober they are, or they'll just say, "Hey guys, there's a thing called Recovery Posse. It's a hashtag Recovery Posse or ODAT, one day at a time." And those 2 hashtags people will tag, and we encourage each other online. Having a bad day, hey, you can do it. Stay strong. Remember this, remember that. People sending advice. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's
awesome.
Been really a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to the future with it, because I'm hoping to transition to this as I move on in life.
Absolutely.
And kind of get out of the full-time world of working and moving into this as I ride off into the sunset later in life.
Troy, like it's hard work, and there's a long road ahead still. A lot of things need to happen, but they will. I love that you said yes. I love that God led you to say yes to this. I'm thinking, imagine sitting here and you wouldn't be sitting here if you hadn't done this.
Absolutely not.
And good for you, man. That's so inspiring. That's so inspiring. Hey, let's end with this little rapid fire.
Yeah.
What's good news around best thing happening in your life, in your family, in your home? Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, this is going to sound ridiculous, but we're doing Wordle like crazy right now in our house. So it's like a competition every day of who can get the word right. That's one
great.
little fun thing that we're doing. But just even through the whole pandemic, and just being together, we've all had challenges because cohabitating in the house for this long is just challenging as a family. The way it is, but really became closer, and especially with the girls. My two daughters, it's great, and they're getting older to a point now where they're almost young adults, and it's just real fun. So that's what's going on in our house.
Wordle away.
It's
That's
really great.
awesome.
Yeah.
What about your neighborhood and community? What's the best thing going on there?
Oh man, I would say just kind of reaching out through this business too of making connections. Like I've made connections with Margaret Duffy Wallace. I don't know. We know her with a connection with the church.
Yeah.
So we've been doing some things together, and really looking for. She has a thing that she does, Better Together as One, and so we might be doing something with that and raising money and working together in the mental health aspect and addiction. She's worked with people with their health and mind, body, spirit type things.
Yeah.
So little fun little things like that. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We've been talking a little bit about that. In our community where I live, just seeing people out, and it's really cool that everyone's kind of chipping in together.
Yeah.
Even out today, just shoveling. Today it snowed.
Yeah.
People out, snow blowing the other guy's driveway or talking and chatting. So it's, I think the pandemic has really brought people together in the sense that they know that you need that connection with others. So we're outside chatting a lot more than we used to, for sure. When we're all going to work and kind of waving as we leave and waving as we get home and going about our lives. Everyone's working from home, so we're seeing each other quite a bit.
That's cool.
And we got a dog too, so we're walking every day. So there's a whole different world in the dog world. You meet all kinds of people in the neighborhood I never thought I'd ever meet before.
That's awesome. Okay, last one. Best thing happening in the world.
In the world.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. For me, it was when George Floyd got murdered. Mm. Man, did that impact me so much. And seeing the world really just kind of standing up and saying, like, this is an atrocity that cannot go unnoticed.
Right on.
And the social justice aspect, it happened in America, right? In Minnesota. And look what happened here just in our own community. I went to the Black Lives Matter rally that happened soon after that. But it wasn't just here. It was all over the place, in Europe. And, all, so I think in the world, for me, that was really impactful over the past while, just to know that, we really need to be conscious of what's going on in our society and what has happened in the past that's been brought forward. And has it really changed all that much from, the 50s, 60s when the civil rights movement happened? And it's shameful to think that it hasn't really changed significantly enough that we don't even have to, we have these kind of discussions, or there is this brutality that's happening and that we don't focus on, we don't know about. So we're learning about all these things. And I think that's great. And for me, that social aspect really hit home for me over this time. So I would say in the world for me is that consciousness of moving forward as a people and equally.
So true.
Has been pretty impactful for me, I think.
That's a great response. Thanks, Troy. Yeah. Thanks so much. Well, Troy, thanks for being on the Good News Podcast today,
Super
man.
Happy to be here. Man.
Oh, I love it. Friends, if you are inspired by Troy's story, please reach out to him. Maybe you're his new social media help and support, or you can help him with his website, or even go on and purchase something. It's a great gift. I know I've used some of Troy's stuff for gifts for my family and friends, and they love it. People love it because it's spreading a good message. People recognize that it's making a difference, and supporting a guy like Troy who's starting something really, really awesome. So thanks, Troy. Thanks, everyone, for being with us on the Good News Podcast. Hope to see you again soon. God bless you. Well, thanks so much for Troy. He just nailed some stuff that's, I know for me, it was so important to be aware of and to be reminded of, that when people suffer from addiction, that there's often other things going on deep within them that are part of their history, part of their journey that's led to those addictions, that addictions can come in a variety of forms. Troy has done so much work on this. It was really helpful to hear from him today. I hope that you were inspired, hope that you were encouraged. And as we, go our way, maybe that we also can recognize that all of us can find ways to help people. And Troy, in this case, he's created a new business. It's called Sober Athletic Wear. So if nothing else, head over to Troy's website, order some clothing for some friends and family, and help spread a message of hope that God wants people to be healthy, to be sober, to live a full and deep and rich life. Friends, thanks again for joining us. Next week, you're going to love it, man. We're going to go into a story, an inspiring story with Lexi Black on how she went from not being a runner to running marathons and doing it really well. We're going to break it down and just hear, how did that even happen? Hope you can join us. Friends, thanks so much for joining us. God bless you.